Ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, children of all ages, the Pots and Pans Network proudly brings to you its tag team champions of the world, the Road Dogg Tino Gray, the badass Rob Potsy Potchak. That's right, we are the Potsy and Tino Show. Our theme song, which is not on here tonight, but will be one of these days, is brought to you by Adam's House Cats, called The Wrestling Song. It's available on iTunes for 99 cents. And Tino, while I'm trying to share us to Facebook,
si, senor,
I gotta ask you, what's up with you?
Not a whole lot going on today. I'm sorry that we didn't get the show out yesterday, but I had stuff with my mom. My mom has glaucoma and cataract, so she was having the pressure in her eye from the glaucoma was really bad. The doctor was worried about it, so they did surgery to relieve that pressure. So she had glaucoma surgery, but then she also has cataracts. So they took off that cataract and put on a new lens. And she was saying how when she went back for a post-op, and so last night I had to stay with her because she was high on all the meds and everything. She wasn't able to, pretty much she needed somebody there to make sure she didn't, fall down or do anything. My mom was almost 70 years old.
She was like Aladdin on the magic carpet, right?
Yeah, I'm just like, just make sure you lay down. And today she went for a post-op, so they're like that eye. They have the eye chart, like when you go to the eye doctor's office. She was able to read she said the very bottom, the small letters, and she hadn't been able to do that in years. And so the doctor was happy with that. So they're hoping that when next month at this time, same time, she'll get the other eye done. So then she won't have to wear glasses. She'll maybe just like reading glasses and everything. But so it's pretty cool. Right now, I'm waiting because the doctor told her because she still has to wear glasses for her left eye. They're going to pop the lens out of the right side of her glasses because she don't need it. And so I'm like, and they're like, I was like, so you're going to get a fake lens put in there? She's like, well, the doctor said, why waste the money to put the fake lens in when next month you're going to be, probably not having to wear glasses. So I'm like, so Mom, that means you can just be rolling around with like one lens in your glasses? I said, please don't come to my house because I will make fun of you and laugh.
Because she's only going to have one lens?
One lens in her eye. So it's like like glasses, just a hole where the lens should be in this eye and a right eye. I'm like,
that's not too much different than what like movie actors end up doing. They wear the glasses without any lenses in them half the time. Like I always find it funny when you see like professional basketball players and they're sitting there, trying to give their after the game press conference, and they're trying to look smart by wearing glasses, and there's no lenses in the frames, and it's like come on, bro. You can see the shine in it.
That's like me sitting here with no lenses in these glasses. You wouldn't be able to see the ring lights out the reflection of my lenses.
Exactly, but we can definitely see the ring light, so we know that your prescription's like this.
Yeah. Oh, really? Yeah, right. You got
so anything cool happened this week?
Oh, I'm thinking. Let's see. Went and watched it. So Saturday we went to a baby shower, and I got to hang out with some buddies, and we went to watch the Carolina Duke game. We went to a bar to check it out. That's the first time I actually been out like that, at a bar. We went to Hooters and just to watch the basketball game. It's just cool to be able to hang out like that Saturday night. And then
now, did you get any of their bacon wrapped wings?
No, I gotta stay away from that stuff. So I didn't. Yeah,
but I mean, bacon wrapped wings are like low in carbs and everything else. So
high in cholesterol and salt.
Yeah, the good stuff.
Yeah, good stuff. That Mr. Hart, man, you don't need it either.
Well, I mean, that's why I'm on medication, right? So I can continue to indulge from time to time.
But that's about it. Nothing really exciting.
That's not about it. Didn't you go to like Gumballs or whatever it was called?
I didn't go to Nicole and the kids went Jelly Beans. Jelly Beans here in Cary. They closed down. This is the last weekend, so it's a roller skating rink here in Cary, North Carolina, and they closed down. So I think because of the coronavirus, and they just This one of those businesses that just couldn't survive being shut down and not being able to be open. So they had one last hurrah this weekend, and they're no more.
That's too bad. That's too bad. You know, I was never a big roller skater, so I
growing up, I did. We had roller skating rink. It's called Skate World in Jacksonville. Man, that was the place to be. Man, it was you went there on Saturdays. Then they had the all night skates where they would lock you. Well, not lock you in, but you go there. You know, at 7 o'clock, and then your parents would pick you up at 7 the next morning. You thought you're big shit though. You get skate all night, say it all night and stuff. And half the time you look around and you see kids in the like on the little benches in the corners, like. Like, why are you here?
You know, me thinking about you roller skating makes me think that you would have like the big afro and like the bell bottom pants on, and like the like you just like, to me you just look like you'd be right out of like the early 70s.
No. Dick.
So Tino, it's funny you're talking about your mom and her glaucoma and everything, and you know, off air I was asking you, did she get any of that medical marijuana, right? And I told you, for the first time in my life I bought marijuana this week, and you were like, where did you get marijuana?
If I know you, you're like, you do not know anybody.
I know people. I know people who could get it for me. But no, and folks, just so you know, that what I ended up showing him was my Robinhood account, because I bought marijuana stock. I did not buy actual marijuana because while I know how to get pot, I have no idea what to do with it. So
in your name, Potsy, so you don't have to.
You would think that, and you know, that it's one of the funny things that, you know, I thought about getting the vanity license plate at one point that would say Potsy on it, and like I could only picture how often I would get pulled over, and the cops would be like, "This shit don't smell like pot,"
right?
You know, like the car doesn't smell, guys. Something's wrong,
right,
sir? We're gonna have to have you get out of the car. But so the Super Bowl happened this past weekend.
Yes, it did.
I guess we have to call it the big game. I don't think the NFL lets us use the term Super and Bowl together.
There's nothing super about that because Kansas City got dragged and whooped.
Yes, they did. So anybody out there, I don't even know if we've got any comments in the comments. We do not. Yeah. We do not. So folks, if you're out there, don't be shy. Say hi. There was one thing super about it, and that was Tom Brady. You know,
I got to give it to him, dude. I got to give it to him. I was one of those who's like not a Tom Brady fan, but I got mad respect for him, man. He brought that team to the damn Super Bowl. They hadn't really done anything, and he came and knocked it out of the park for him.
One of the things that I thought was really interesting, you know, he's had a 19-year career, Tino, right?
Whoa.
Yeah, 19 years. And he wasn't even a starter in college. Okay. Now, granted, I will take away from him. He went to Michigan. So me being a Notre Dame football fan.
Does he know the Steiners?
No. The Steiners would have been there like 20 years before him. So, but all things considered, one of the stats that I thought was really funny that CBS showed was it said the tale of two Bradys. And it showed his first 10 years in the league, and it showed his second 9 years in the league. And it basically said he's had 2 Hall of Fame careers.
Wow.
So, and us being pro wrestling fans, we know some 2-time Hall of Famers. Not personally. Well, I've met Ric Flair and Booker T, but I mean, while I've met them, I wouldn't say I know them, right?
Yeah.
So, but both of them are 2-time Hall of Famers. So I guess if the Pro Football Hall of Fame said, "Hey, Tom Brady's so good that we want to give his first half of his career a Hall of Fame bid and his second half of career a Hall of Fame bid," I'm okay with it at this point.
Okay.
You know,
he's done the work.
Yeah. So, I said last week, and I want to reiterate that this coming Wednesday in comic shops, Junior High Horrors, Strangest Thingies.
I gotta come get mine.
Will be in stores. So your local comic shop. I know that all the ones around here should have it. If they don't, let me know. But on top of that, I was scheduled to do a signing out at Dragon's Lair in Fayetteville, North Carolina. But unfortunately, there was some sort of emergency that came up, and they had to reschedule. So hopefully everything's okay.
That was this coming Saturday, right? Because
yeah.
I had to play. I couldn't come. Oh man.
Well, the good news is now you're playing, and I'm not doing anything.
And Clayton, and it's 2 to 5. It's early, so you don't have an excuse.
So it's early. So who knows?
Yeah, we'll see.
Who knows? But on top of that, they did say they wanted to reschedule. They're gonna reschedule me and the artist writer of one of the books that I edit, Eric Klaus, his Ninjas and Robots series. They're gonna have both of us come in at some point to do a collective signing. So I think that's gonna be pretty cool. Also, Tino, I don't know if you saw, but in wrestling terms, I had my heel turn this week.
I read it. I don't see how that was a heel turn. I mean, those are facts. I agree with you. Those are facts.
So okay. So for those that are out there that are watching this either now or after the fact, I'll point out that what we're talking about is my Mainframe Comic-Con article, The Gorilla Position. Last week, I wrote an article that spoke about how if I, and not just if I were, but how I feel that the AEW mid-card and below should feel based on the fact that they are now working agreements that are putting people like the Good Brothers in the main event on their program instead of guys like Orange Cassidy who actually make them money, right? And how this week specifically, or last Wednesday specifically, Kenta from New Japan Pro Wrestling, who lives in Florida, showed up because he's supposed to face Jon Moxley for the IWGP United States Championship, which has basically been held hostage by Jon Moxley for over a year now.
Because of Carino, though, right?
Well,
go back over there because could he fly back over there to defend it?
So no, and that's why it was pretty interesting because when they showed Jon Moxley showing up on the New Japan Power or New Japan show, whatever it was called, I don't want to say Power because I think that was NWA. But the show that he showed up on was definitely done from like the New Japan Dojo, and it was either they may have one in Florida at this point. I know they've got one in like San Francisco. So he definitely flew to that or went to that, showed up, as Kento tried to give him the go to sleep, the move that was really made famous now after the fact by one CM Punk. But definitely, Kento's move beforehand. And anyways, so Kenta showed up at the end of AEW, which I guess this week was Beach Bash.
Something like that.
Even though they've got the heaters and everything out there because it's like 28 degrees even in Florida at 8 o'clock at night.
Here's my question about the IG the belt that
IWGP.
Yeah, I'm tired. Forgive me, folks. But not just that belt. Do they not have does New Japan not have the whole? You have to defend that belt in a certain amount of time, or you get stripped of it. Because if he's had it a year, he hadn't defended it. I mean, what are they doing?
Well, okay, so let's speak for real on this. There was no way to get Jon Moxley out of the United States to go to Japan to defend the title, right?
So they could have stripped him.
And well, they could have stripped him, but which also would have given them an even bigger storyline after the fact because he'd have been like, I'm the real IWGP United States champion. However, New Japan does have dojos here, so they do have young lions and what was that term that Miro used a couple weeks ago?
Was it young boy?
Young boy. So there is the possibility. There was always the possibility of having him defend it. It's just, let's be real. You don't want Jon Moxley going up against just some young lion, right? Yeah. You especially because AEW would probably nix that idea because they're not going to have a guy that was their world champion for almost a year drop an AEW championship to a nobody. And obviously they were all behind the scenes constantly trying to figure out a way to make this all come together anyway, right? I think the other part of it,
he didn't drop the AEW title to nobody. He dropped it to Omega.
No. I meant they don't want him to drop the North American title because AEW wants to work with New Japan, right? So Kenny Omega wants to have that Elite versus the Bullet Club stuff going on, or they just want to reform the whole Bullet Club in different worlds, right?
Now, do you remember, before you go there, remember I've been saying for at least 2 years that somebody needs to join forces with New Japan, and they might be able to give the WWE for the money. And I said, and I remember I was saying maybe ROH or Impact. Do you think that that's what AEW is trying to do?
I think that what they're trying to do, their way of putting it is, we want to give fans what they want, which is the best talent in the world facing the best talent in the world, right? So having Kenta show up is a surprise. And this goes back to the article from Mainframe, which what I was basically saying is that's a good way to look at it, except you have a roster of your own talent that you are not putting over, that you are not doing anything with, and you're basically becoming WWE light by having these moments. Now, what you're really showing is the same type of grit, if you will, of what WCW started doing when they realized that they couldn't compete with the product of WWE, which was bring in, and basically hire away all of ECW's talent. What are you looking at? What are you doing? You're staring at something.
Playing my ring.
Oh, but like you just kept going.
I was looking at my staring at my ring because I was looking at it's getting bigger. I'm gonna have to get it slides off too easy. I was just thinking,
you're getting skinny, huh? You're slimming down. Good for you, man. I'm glad one of us is. I will talk about my meal kit here in a bit too.
Oh yeah.
But like my whole argument with this article, with this whole situation is that you're not developing your own talent, and you can see it specifically with the women's division. You have Hikaru Shida as your women's champion, and when was the last time that she wrestled? Okay.
Dude, I read this thing, and you were like, because before you were like, I'm gonna turn heel. I'm reading it. I'm like waiting for you to turn heel. I'm like, true. I was waiting for you to turn heel.
Well, that's because you and I are not necessarily AEW marks, right? So my point though is that the rest of our wrestling group on Facebook is all over the place with their marksmanship, if you will. But more than anything,
Sheeta has not wrestled in a long time.
She hasn't wrestled in a long time, but she's sitting in the audience. She's one of those people in the front row sitting there singing Jericho's theme song and doing all that bullshit. But yet she's watching Serena Deeb go ahead and defend the NWA Women's Championship every week. She's watching Britt Baker have great matches with Thunder Rosa. You're sitting here watching all this stuff happen, and your world champion is sitting on the sidelines. And
it's Joe.
We got Joe.
It says AEW has really dropped the ball with the women's division. Yep.
Well, with the women's Dive M division.
Yeah, I don't know what that is.
Yep, me neither. But Joe, you're absolutely right. The idea of that is, to me, it's just mind-boggling. Thinking that they have all this talent. Like, they've got guys like Sean Spears, who everybody was saying, as long as you gave Ty Dillinger a chance, he could be world championship material. Well, what the hell's he doing, Tino?
Sitting out there singing Jericho's music.
Hell, they brought in, you know what they've done over the past couple of weeks? Like, they've had Billy Gunn on the roster since they started.
And his sons.
And yet instead, they brought in Brian Pillman's son to wrestle.
Looking for that name. Now,
granted, I like Brian Pillman Jr., but I got to tell you, I'm sitting here watching him, and I'm like, I don't see anything special.
It's the name.
Well, of course, guys like Chris Jericho, who went up and down the road with his dad, are sitting there saying, "Give the kid a chance. Give the kid a chance." Hell, who showed up? Who showed up just a couple weeks ago? Now, granted, these are homegrown AEW talents, but Dolph Ziggler's brother showed up. Like, they're not using who they have, and they're adding more to it. They're doing exactly what we said the problem with WWE is, and then on top of doing all of that, they're going one step further and saying, we need to keep this ratings war victory going. And you know how we can do that, Tino? What if Tony Khan decides to bring in some Impact talent? What if we're able to get some of those Japanese wrestlers that live in the United States working for us on our program, because they can't work the New Japan Pro Wrestling shows right now, right?
Right.
But what does that do? That has got to make the morals, the morals, ethics, and values of these. Yes, Joe, we definitely saw your typo. It makes you realize that morally you are not taking care of the people that work for you. You are not giving them the chance that everyone ahead of time was saying, these guys need that chance. Sean Spears got world champion written all over him. Miro got world champion written all over him. Well, what's Miro doing? He's getting put through a wedding cake.
No. He didn't get put through the wedding cake. He got handcuffed. No, his leg got.
He got ball and chained
to the bottom rope.
To the turnbuckle. While Kip Sabian apparently got injured, and Penelope went into the cake. So let me ask you something. How is that any better than what Bobby Lashley and Lana did 6 months ago to Rusev? How is that any better? It's not. You know what? It's the same fucking story. Except instead, sure, Penelope's hot, but you don't have Lana, and you don't have Bobby Lashley doing this.
I want to do this.
I want to do this.
I want to do this.
You don't have that anymore. You have Orange Cassidy completely. It looked like botching his spot of coming out of the cake. Oh, it's my turn. No, not yet. You want me to come back? Anyways, got a problem with that. I think that, my article on mainframecomiccon.com, the gorilla position, I try to do it once a week, maybe twice a week sometimes. I got to tell you, I felt like I was completely justified with my beliefs there, that they're bringing in talent from all over the world instead of using the talent that they're trying to say that they're home growing. And on top of that, they're taking guys that don't work for them and putting them in main event spots.
I mean, I was saying the same shit when we were watching the Royal Rumble last week. Remember that?
Yeah, no, exactly. I mean, Joe says that some of the unused guys you've mentioned are working AEW Dark. Sure, it's a YouTube show. You might as well put them on Impact, which is a Twitch show. I mean, like, what else are you going to do with them, right? I mean, at this point, why don't they just buy Impact? I mean, Tony Khan talks about having the money to do it. Why not just do it?
We probably will.
When one of them ends up having money issues, that's exactly what's going to happen. Now, it shouldn't be AEW because, well, Tony Khan's dad has 6 times the money that Vince McMahon has. Especially now that, although Vince was just given $1 billion by NBC, so it's not like they don't have the money, right? I didn't even get into some of the other stuff that I wanted to talk about. Like I don't really have a GameStop story this week, and we don't have anybody. What? No, you want me to come up with one? All right. GameStop story of the week. I remember it like it was yesterday, Tino.
Oh hell.
No. Do you want a good one? I have one good one, and I mean it's great. It's the big one. Okay.
Let's check it out.
Now, folks, disclaimer: this is M-rated.
Oh hell.
And here's why. So I remember it. I actually do remember it like it was yesterday because it's kind of the thing that changed my life. Okay. So I was sitting there. It was December 11th. Okay. About 5 years ago. So you could probably figure out what it was, Tino.
Yeah.
Middle of Christmas season, I had just had a doctor's appointment. Or no, I was scheduled to have a doctor's appointment. I was scheduled to have a doctor's appointment on the 18th. Okay. So it was 7 days before my doctor's appointment. And I had this woman come in, and she was like, I'm here to pick up my copy of Mortal Kombat for the Xbox 360. Okay. It was, as far as I know, it was like Mortal Kombat 10 or something. So it was the game that had been canceled like 4 months before that for the Xbox 360. And we were instructed to call every single one of those pre-orders and tell them to come back and get their money because the game had been canceled. So I'm sitting there and I'm like, okay, we got like 35 pre-orders on it. I'm going to go sit in the back. I'm going to knock these out. Now, I did that not in December. I did that in like August. Okay. We got back from our manager's conference. I ended up going in the back room, sat there for about, an hour making these 35 phone calls to tell people, hey, the game's been canceled for your system. Come and get it. Now, some of the people answered their phone. Other people didn't answer their phone. But what did I do when I got no one to answer the phone? I left a voicemail because that's the right thing to do, right? Leave a detailed message. Some people don't have their voicemail set up. So that's on them at that point. December 11th, this woman comes in. She says that she wants her game. And I'm like, well, unfortunately, ma'am, that game for that system was canceled. And she's like, and you guys kept my money this whole time? And I was like, no, ma'am. We called everybody and let them know that they could come back and pick up their money. And she's like, well, I never got the phone call. Okay. Well, I can assure you we made those phone calls. She's like, ain't nobody tried to call me. And I was like, well, it's nobody tried to call you, if that's really where you're going with that. But let's be real. I personally made the phone call, so I know that all of those phone calls were made. So unless you don't have your voicemail set up, which, has happened in the past, ma'am, I do need to go ahead and let you know all of those phone calls were made. I did tell everybody they can come pick up their game. I said, nobody fucking called me. And I'm like, well, again, this wasn't even a task I put on my team. I, as a training manager in the area, so trainer for all the area, I made those phone calls. I called you. You may not have answered. You might not have your voicemail set up. You might even be one of those assholes that has your voicemail full so that you can't receive voicemail messages. But I assure you, I made that phone call. She starts swearing. Listen, motherfucker, nobody called me. You kept my money. I don't know what the fuck you think you're doing. This makes sense as to why this company's going out of business. Now, granted, this was 5 years ago. GameStop's still there. They just had a $400 stock price just last week, right?
Yeah.
Ma'am, I can go ahead and process the return of your money right now because you obviously didn't come in when we made those phone calls. But again, I assure you I made that phone call. I'm telling you right now, motherfucker, you did not make that phone call, and you are a liar. And ma'am, okay, you're starting to use foul language and everything else. Let me go ahead and point out the fact that I have a store full of people. I've told you I'm going to give you your money back. I don't know why you're still yelling at me. Well, because some of us aren't made of money and we need our fucking money. And you kept my money for blah, blah, blah. You never called me. And you're still a liar because you didn't make the phone call. Well, ma'am, once again, I did make the phone call. So I'm going to go ahead and process your return. Here's your money. Handed her the cash back because I didn't even care how it was paid for. Saw it, just clicked the button, gave her cash. And I was like, and now I've given you your money back. And she's like, listen up, you motherfucker. I want your corporate phone number. I want this. I want this. And I'm like, ma'am, at this point, I've given you your money back. You're continuing to use foul language. I think at this point, it's just time for you to go. And you can actually see the people like in the line being like, yeah, I think it's time for you. I'm trying to buy something, lady. Get the fuck out, you know? And I'm like, so I got to tell you, I don't know what else you want me to do for you, because I'm not going to give you the corporate phone number because you didn't answer your phone when I called. And I got a line of people that actually want to get taken care of. So it's time for you to go. And she looks at me, and Tino gives me one of the best lines I've ever heard. She sits there and she goes, you motherfucker, your mama should have swallowed you. And she's like, she says that, and she goes, I don't know how you think this is good customer service. I'm a teacher, and you're sitting there. Your mama should have swallowed your ass. That's what should have happened with you. And you know what I said to her, Tino? I looked right at her, and I said two things. I said, ma'am, one, that is such a great line, but you wasted it because I already gave you your money back and said I wasn't doing shit else for you. And two, if my kid was in your class, I'd pull them, because there's no way I want you teaching my kids nothing. And I said, and now it's time for you to go because I got the phone in my hand and I'm ready to call the cops. She finally left. Turns out one of the couples that was actually in the store was one of my employees' parents. So they're sitting there and they're like, I don't know how you didn't lose your cool. I don't know how you didn't like just get in her face. I don't know how you didn't throw a phone at her. You handled that so much better than anybody that I know. And I sat there, Tino, and I was like, I need to go sit in the back.
Oh no.
Because my chest was like, so I go and I sit in the back, and you know, I call the doctor, and I'm like, hey, is there any way I can push my doctor's appointment up? Because you know it's late December. I'm trying to you know, get Christmas taken care of, do all that stuff. So anyway, I can move it up. And they're like, yeah, sure, we can move you up to like 2 days from now, whatever. So I go in on the 13th. Now remember, I was scheduled on the 18th to go into the doctor for my annual checkup, and the doctor's like, yeah, let's go ahead and put you through the motions. And he's like, so how are you feeling? And I'm like, well, I got to tell you, I had this one really crazy situation happen at work. I was like, I won't use all the foul language or anything else to sit there and explain it. But this is what happened. I had to go sit in the back, and he's like, well, that doesn't sound good. Nope. And I'm like, okay. Nope. And he's like, so I want you to keep your other appointment. And in fact, if we can move it up, I want you to go see a cardiologist like this week. And I'm like, well, that's great, doc, but it's Christmas. I'm in retail. I'm going to have to get through the Christmas season before anything else happens. And he's like, we're going to try to schedule that like immediately for you. And I'm like, yeah, okay. But trust me, I still got to get through Christmas. So I might not be able to, you know, make it to that doctor's appointment. Cause I get a phone call like 2 days later. So now it's like the 15th. And they're like, yeah, we've moved your appointment up to tomorrow for the cardiologist. And I'm like, yeah, but I can't be there tomorrow because I got to be at work. And they're like, well, the doctor really wants you to come in, so you're gonna have to figure out a way to not go to work. So I was like, okay, fine, whatever. So I call my assistant manager or whatever, and I tell Robert, I'm like, Robert, you're gonna have to come in and you're gonna have to cover for me because my doctor's not letting me get out of this cardiologist appointment. I don't know what the fuck's going on, but you know, I guess I got to go to the cardiologist. And he's like, okay, man, I got you. Don't worry. He's like, it works out better for me for whatever reason. Like something was going on with him or whatever. And he's like, oh, so it's perfect. And I'm like, okay, cool. So I go to the cardiologist. Cardiologist is looking at all the stuff. they have like a student doctor there with them, and you know, they're looking at my EKG that they ran on me like just, you know, 5 minutes before that, and he goes, well, what do you see here? And I'm like, I just see a bunch of lines going like this, like I don't know what I'm looking for. And he's like, not you, I'm talking to her. I'm like, oh, okay, let the third year medical student sit here and you know, get in on this. So she sits there and she's like, oh, it looks like there's a little abnormality there and a little abnormality there. And the cardiologist is like, yeah, hey, we want to schedule you for a treat, you know, like some sort of thing to actually really take a look at this. And I'm like, okay, what? And it's like, well, we could do two things. We could do a stress test where we're basically just going to run you till you pass out. And I'm like, oh yeah, I'm not really feeling that one, doc. What's the other option? And he's like, well, the other option is we put a heart catheter in. We take a look at what's going on the inside. And I'm like, so let me ask you something. If I say I want to do the stress test, I'm still going to need the heart catheterization, aren't I? And he's like, yeah, we're still going to end up having to do that. He's like, I'm 98% sure that you're going to need that heart catheterization. And I'm like, and for those that don't know, it's basically taking a camera. And, no. Though they do shave you down there in case they can't get it in through your hand. So they actually ran it up like right here, all the way through.
Did they put you out?
No, you have to be awake for it.
Did you feel that?
Well, they give you so much stuff that's like you're like you know, like just like drooling all over the place and everything. But so I'm sitting there and I'm watching this and it's almost like you're not even in your own body at this point. Like I'm looking at the cameras and I'm like, if you ever saw the movie The Wolverine, where they show like the weird thing on his chest at one point and he puts his own hand in to pull the like bug out of him that's causing his healing factor not to work.
Yeah.
Like I'm looking at my own heart and I'm like, it's that thing that looks like a spider in there. And the doctor's like, that's your blood vessels. Like, and I'm like, that's so cool. You know, like
I wish I'd have been there for that.
And so of course they get done and they're like, all right, so here's the deal. You're fucked. And I'm like, what? They're like, well, we were thinking we put the heart catheterization in. You're young enough. We basically go in there and we'd see little spots to put balloons in and pop your blood vessels back open. Nope. Too much of a blockage, really bad genes. The fact that my dad had a heart attack at 37, all this other stuff, you know, I'm pretty much screwed. So they're like, so we got to do quadruple bypass surgery. So it was all because of some woman that told me my mama should have swallowed me, that I went to the doctor. So I would not give her the satisfaction, Tino, of saving my life.
Oh yeah, she saved your life.
But she did, well, I don't know. I probably would have still been in the hospital at that point anyway. But you know, that whole Christmas season, you know, because like I said, I ended up going in for surgery on December 18th. Okay. And I came out on, I think I got out on the 24th.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be home on the 22nd because that's my birthday. But I went in on the 18th, had the surgery at like 9 a.m. Worst scenario, worst feeling of my entire life, you know, just because they're like, well, hey, there's a 95% chance that you pull through the surgery because we've got one of the best doctors in the country working on you. And I'm like, well, that's great, but there's a 5% chance that I die.
Oh, you lost your mic. Lost your sound. Lost your sound. You're Milli Vanilli in it. No. Can you hear me? I can't hear you. Can you hear me? I see you. I see you. I can't hear you. Something dropped out. I don't know Let's see what we got going on. So, like I said, if you guys are see Joe still in the chats. If anybody else in the chat, like we always say, don't be shy. Pop in and say hi. We normally, like I said, we normally do this on Monday nights. Excuse me. Last night I had a thing with my mom, so we couldn't do it. Hopefully, fingers crossed. I think that we might try to be in the same room next week. So I may drive out to Rob's and so we can be in the same room. It's better like this. You mean with no Rob? Is that what you mean, Joe?
That's not what he means.
What does he mean?
I don't know. Hold on a second.
I hear you now. What'd you do?
Well, I unplugged it and plugged it back in, but now I'm trying to get my headset to work.
Yeah.
Because I don't want any echoes coming through. So hold on a second.
I think he said, "Yep, it's better like this" when they couldn't hear you.
That's typically what he means. Mike, still sound okay?
Yeah, you sound great.
All right, perfect.
So you're saying you had a 5% chance, so that worried you?
Well, of course. And then that type of surgery, they come in like literally like every 10 minutes to draw blood. And every single person that comes in to draw blood and everything from you sits there and goes, and now we're going to let you try to get some sleep. Motherfucker, you haven't gotten off my ass about this blood. And you keep taking, like, at some point, you guys know that I'm in here for heart surgery, which means
you need all the blood.
You know that I don't have the blood pumping the way it needs to. So stop taking it. They kept taking it.
They took care of you.
They did. The Wake Med people were amazing. The ICU group and everything. I mean, everybody there was just awesome. They really took care of me. They made me $1 million man. I got an adamantium skeleton in my chest now. So it's pretty cool.
Nice. All right.
Yeah, exactly. So Tino, that's the GameStop story of the week.
Awesome. Yay.
So now we'll give everybody a chance to subscribe, like, comment, tell your friends about us, all that good stuff. And want to get into some wrestling?
Here we go.
All right. So which did you prefer last week, NXT or AEW?
Probably NXT because AEW was kind of hokey. The wedding is just. I think NXT was NXT outdid them again last week. Now,
in the ratings, AEW won again, like 810,000 to like 660,000, which basically showed that Edge's appearance didn't do anything. However, I don't think they gave him the right appearance.
What do you mean?
So he came down and interrupted Finn Balor and Pete Dunne, right? And then he just sat back. Like
because he's not.
Hey, I won the Royal Rumble. I'm coming down here to interrupt the two of you. And then I'm just going to be like, I might want your title. I might want Drew McIntyre's title. I might want Roman Reigns' title. I don't know whose title I want because the writers haven't figured it out yet.
He's going for Drew's. I actually think Bianca's going to go against Asuka. I don't think she's going to stay on SmackDown.
I don't know. I think they're planning on having Lacey Evans beat Asuka so that way they can have Charlotte versus Lacey Evans at WrestleMania.
Well, they better hurry up.
No, they got 2 months, and they got 2 pay-per-views in between.
Just one, I thought.
No, they got Fastlane in between. Fastlane's like second week of March or something, and then like 2 weeks later you got WrestleMania, which is just stupid. But AEW, I thought them doing a battle royal match after the WWE put on their second biggest pay-per-view of the year, which is the biggest battle royal of the year, the Royal Rumble, was stupid.
Yes.
I think having having the Young Bucks actually get knocked out early was also stupid.
Yeah.
Because it took away from the storyline of, oh, they got eliminated by, the Good Brothers being down there at that point. Now, they still get a match against Jericho and MJF, and Sammy Guevara leaves that match disappointed because Chris Jericho eliminated him. So you have all these storylines working with it. So I guess that part worked. I think they also planted the seed of the whole MJF thing. Remember, because when Jericho left to go after Sammy, he said, "Hey fellas, let's talk about it." And he had a Wardlow close the door. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just disappointed by it. It seemed like
happen.
What's that?
We knew it was going to happen. He's going to try to take over the inner circle. So
no. I liked that storyline, but they keep, they're flirting with it like the NWO implosion. It's like, okay, guys, you've had the inner circle together since day one of AEW. They got together day one, and then it was the first night of Dynamite when Santana and Ortiz came down and joined Jericho, and then Hager came down, I think, the week after that.
Okay, I'm trying to remember. I don't know if it was the first night, but yeah, okay.
And then of course the Carino virus happened, but it's like I said, it just seemed disappointing to me. And I've already talked about the Orange Cassidy and Miro thing. I mean, are they going to have a match at some point, or are they just going to keep bitching, moaning, and complaining, and making Kip Sabian the star of it, when Kip Sabian, I haven't even seen him wrestle, so I don't know if the kid's got talent.
I think they probably will have Orange wrestle him, and then they're going to have Beretta come back and save him.
But Orange Cassidy is main event talent, right? We've said that. And yet they relegated him to
mid-card.
Yeah, not even high mid-card. Now granted, the Orange Cassidy, Kip Sabian, Penelope wedding moment all happened at the same time that Edge was talking to Finn and Pete Dunne. But it still didn't feel like it was as big of a segment as seeing the NXT champion talking to Edge, right? Even though I feel like WWE dropped the ball with that moment, because they didn't really give me something that really felt like it was compelling television and I wanted to watch it. I didn't have that feeling. Now, I did have that feeling later on in the night when Edge goes to leave and Karrion Kross is out there and he says, if you choose the NXT championship, it's going to be against me, because I never lost that belt. And that makes the story that much more interesting. Just like I told you, Edge going against Drew McIntyre is more interesting to me, because that's the belt he never lost. Him sitting there going up against Roman Reigns for the Universal Championship is just saying, I want a title. It's not saying I want the title, right? It's not the title I lost. It's just a title. So I might as well go after the 24/7 championship because it's a title.
Yeah.
I'm baffled by that. I so I don't know. You got anything else you want to say about NXT or AEW? MSK is impressing me so far. I was disappointed to see Casey Catanzaro and the other KC lose their opportunity here. I get why, because they want Raquel Gonzalez and Dakota Kai to probably go after the women's tag team championships when they finally figure out what the hell they want to do with those.
Because are they even being?
Well, it's Shayna and Nia right now that have them, and we're going to talk about Nia Jax. We're going to talk about her because I'm going to tell you, I listened to Busted Open this morning, Tino, and they did not stop talking about Nia Jax the entire episode. Every time they came back from commercial, there was another song that had the word hole in it that they were using. So it was like Black Hole Sun, or
oh my God.
They actually started talking about how the group whole was getting back together just so they could go on a Nia Jax tour.
And I didn't catch that at first because I watched Raw, and we'll talk about it when we get there because I didn't catch it at first.
So let's talk about the premium show.
I'm on my own against the world.
So okay, can I start with my problem with the Bianca Belair moment on SmackDown?
Okay.
Now, girl deserves all of her props. She won the Royal Rumble. She was number 3 in the Rumble this year, and she won. She starts by saying, maybe I'll go over to Raw and I'll go after Asuka. And then she immediately goes, or maybe, and then Carmella's music hit. She's like, I'll stay over here because I want to face my girl Sasha. But she never once said, I want to face Io Shirai from NXT. Now, what does that do, Tino? Because Edge did that.
They're not, I don't want to say they're downplaying NXT because NXT is probably the second best show.
No, you were right. They are downplaying NXT as the college football of the NFL. We'll call them up. Look at Damian Priest. Got called up now. Shows up in the Royal Rumble. Got called. Where the hell was Carlito this week? We'll get to that because we're not talking about Raw right now.
This week? That was last week he tagged with Jeff Hardy. Okay.
Yeah. So we'll talk about that later, I guess. But okay, so here we have Bianca come out and she's talking about Sasha Banks. And fucking Reginald takes a microphone and starts telling her that she's going to lose to Sasha Banks. What the fuck's that all about?
I think it's going to be a turn's coming, and I don't know Reginald's going to, because if you notice, Reginald's been cozying up or trying to cozy up to Sasha. I think they're going to put him with her. And I don't know if that's a face turn for Carmella and a heel turn for Sasha, or I don't know how that's going to work.
I don't think it's going to do anything for Carmella. I don't think she can really be a baby face without being with R-Truth, right?
Right.
Her attitude, the character that they've put her in as right now, I just don't see her being So Joe, you're saying that the belt he never lost doesn't exist, except technically it is part of the WWE Championship because they did combine those before they ended up creating the Universal Championship. So, and we can continue talking about that. I do not think that MJF and Sammy are in cahoots. However, I would actually probably be happier with that kind of swerve than with Sammy falling out and becoming a babyface, because I think he's a little asshole. But
I can see him. He's got that Eddie Guerrero swag. I think he can be a heel. He can be a face, just like Guerrero did. You know what I mean? And even Eddie's whole "I lie, I cheat, I steal." You know what I mean?
Well, and we said that we were done talking about NXT, but we even did get an Eddie Guerrero moment in the NXT episode when Leon Ruff made it seem like he got hit by Johnny Gargano. Johnny Gargano got kicked out, but then Leon Ruff still lost the match.
Yeah.
But we're talking about SmackDown. So Tino, let's talk about the Roman Reigns promo.
Joe's favorite.
Yes, Joe's favorite moments were the opening and closing of SmackDown, I'm sure. But the promo where Roman, for the first time since coming back, lost his temper.
And I'm tired. I don't even remember why he lost his temper.
Well, because Edge made him wait.
That's right. And
now the theory is that it's not because Edge made him wait, even though it is the prize. It is the top belt. We all know that you can sit there and fake that you're going to Raw or NXT. Why did you even show up on those shows? You know you want to go against the big dog and take that belt from me, or at least try, because we know you're not going to do it. But By that same logic, the World Heavyweight title was part of the Undisputed title when they brought the World Heavyweight title back. I agree, but they brought it back and just put it on Triple H's shoulder back then, so it wasn't even really a recreation of the belt or having a tournament or anything else that kind of led to the new championship kind of thing. And they basically just broke it out of a locker and said, "Here, go give it to Triple H. We need to have this on the other show." But when we're talking about Roman Reigns here, he lost his temper. And what a lot of people are thinking is that he didn't lose his temper because of Edge. He lost his temper because Kevin Owens is getting under his skin. And Tino, I hate to say it, we're getting at least one more Kevin Owens match. And I know how you felt after the Royal Rumble. But I'm almost wondering, because there are 2 pay-per-views before WrestleMania, I'm almost wondering, is Roman Reigns going to lose that belt and then win it back in dominating fashion to then face Edge at WrestleMania?
At this point, even if they gave him the belt, they've done so much damage to Kevin. It wouldn't even like, and then add salt to the wound to let him have it for 3 weeks until the next pay-per-view. What's the point? You know what I mean? Why not give him a longer run?
Hey, in the Attitude Era, we loved that. Mankind trading it off with The Rock twice. And then all of a sudden The Rock going up against Stone Cold Steve Austin. We knew that it was Mankind just holding it for a couple days or whatever, so that way, they get that ratings bump. But we both know that it would mean so much more to put it on Kevin Owens right now, based on the fact that he's a cockroach. They haven't killed him. He has survived a nuclear holocaust and still stunning him. Now, Roman's not selling the stunner like The Rock, which, by the way, when I watched The Rock posted something about Rocky Johnson just recently. And you know how you and I always loved when The Rock took the stunner because he'd do that backflip and the legs would go up in the air, and Austin said if you can do like a full handstand while you're taking the stunner, I'll buy the beer tonight. You know that move was from his dad. His dad used to do the rolling backflip like up to his feet.
Well, when he's like The Rock did. So when The Rock got stunned, you mean the whole when he fell back and rolled back?
And he'd do the whole backflip, but like he'd push himself off the ground and everything when he do it. Mm-hmm. Rocky Johnson used to do that.
But he'd land on his feet. Yeah,
Rocky Johnson would I think he would do it as like a prepping for a move rather than this is how I'm selling the move.
Oh, I need to see. Yeah, I'd be interested to see that.
Hey, we just
what?
Yeah, we
waiting for you to see that.
Hold on, I got to check my pulse.
I was waiting for you to see that.
Joe, I don't even know what to say there, man. Is it because he showed some life this week? Is that what it is?
Are you getting soft? Are you getting soft for Roman? You got a little soft spot for Roman growing? I'll wait for him to answer that. But
So SmackDown once again, I felt that it did everything it needed to. Really love Sami Zayn. God. I got to tell you, if Sami Zayn doesn't get a world title run in the next year, there's a travesty of justice in the WWE.
I think they need to give Cesaro one too.
Well, and Cesaro's contract was up. Apparently, he re-signed, and that's why he's suddenly having a babyface turn, like a real subtle babyface turn, just throwing the knuckles out to Daniel Bryan. Daniel Bryan dapping him one, and similar to what happened with Shinsuke a couple weeks ago. Apparently, that whole spot was supposed to be Cesaro's, and they gave it to Shinsuke instead because Shinsuke's under contract and Cesaro was coming up. Now Cesaro is supposedly signed, so they're sitting there and doing this. But I'll tell you, if I was Cesaro and they were like, "Hey, we want to give you this contract dollar amount, right?" And before the whole Carino thing started, they were saying, hey, $500,000 a year, just stay with us, blah, blah, blah. Like, just take the money, right? Take the money. Well, now the rumors are that they're not offering as much money. So when your contract comes up, they're not offering you as much because they're not doing tours. They're not doing that kind of stuff. So it's very possible that Cesaro still took it because it's better money than not. It's better money than not, but it's still not the max dollar amount that he could have gotten. Now there's talk that WWE wrestlers are able to renegotiate their contract as things open up. Like they're kind of letting them say, hey, you know, now it's time to start talking about this. But we just saw the WWE stock price go from $57 to $47 in a week. And the reason why was because their earnings came back with a lot less earnings than previous. And we know that helped push this idea of putting WWE Network onto Peacock. We know that that's the case. But it's still going to bring them $1 billion over 5 years on top of Fox giving them $1 billion over 5 years, on top of USA giving $800 million over 5 years. So I mean, the company's not
hurting,
not hurt, but they're not touring, so they're not making as much money on stuff like that. Apparently, their number one merchandise guy is Bad Bunny because they let him have merchandise at the Royal Rumble, and apparently it's being eaten up. I don't know why. I think the guy's trash. But
wow.
I mean, I didn't understand his song.
So that means he's trash?
Yeah. It's not my kind of music.
Such an
It's
ass.
trash music. Anyways, that's just me keeping my heel turn going. But I don't even remember what I was saying because I was talking about Bad Bunny now.
His promos.
And Joe says, and since those promos were a combo of tough guy and crybaby, I think it fits his in-ring presentation better. Yeah, I guess, but it wasn't really crybaby. It was, well, no, you know what, Joe? I'll give you that. It was entitled asshole. It was millennial bullshit.
Yep,
is what it was. And I agree. I was completely fine with it. Liked Kevin Owens showing up out of nowhere to give the stunner because they know that they can't just have Edge wrestle him now. They've got to build towards something. But Tino, I think we got to talk about this. We haven't done it in a while, but it was yesterday, and I've watched it at this point. And I got to tell you, I liked when I thought that Ric Flair was being a dirty old man.
Yeah, that was a letdown.
I lost all interest in this story because they don't know if Charlotte should be a babyface or a heel, and she can't be a tweener. She's got to be one or the other. And all they would have had to do was have Ric Flair come down and have Charlotte sit there. And I'll give Busted Open their credit here. Bully Ray basically said all they would have had to have her do was come down, not ready to wrestle yet, so not wearing her robe, coming down and being like, I'm not talking to you as a pro wrestler right now. I'm talking to you as your daughter, and Daddy, this isn't a good look for you. Like everybody's making fun of you in the back because you want the spotlight, you need the spotlight, and it's just go home. Just be the father that you never were for the last 50 years. Wow. You know? Like that's literally all she'd have to do. And instead, what do the writers do? They have her come down, railroad Lacey Evans. You're trash. You want to steal my stuff. You want to be Charlotte 2.0. You just turned heel again. And you turned heel against somebody who's not a babyface, so we don't give a shit.
Exactly.
And what the hell was Ric Flair wearing?
Something Lacey Evans.
Did he go through a car wash before he walked out in that suit? Like the Teflon on his suit was still it was just beating up the water because that was the ugliest damn suit I think I've ever seen.
Leave Nature Boy alone.
It's tough, man.
Leave him alone.
It's tough. It's tough, but I liked this storyline a couple weeks ago when you didn't know what the deal was, but it's almost like somebody sat there and said, Ric Flair shouldn't be the dirty old man. He shouldn't be the dirty old man. Motherfucker, that's what he is. He's been the dirty old man since he was 25.
And letting your mom ride Space Mountain. Oldest ride, longest line.
Dude, I bet people aren't telling the stories, but I bet there's stories where his wife is in the same room and he's still got his arm around 2 other women.
Oh, well, you did. That's right, because you don't like listening to because you don't like what's his name, Thompson.
Oh, but, Conrad.
Yeah, so I think it's
rumors and innuendo.
Him and Shivani had a bunch of stories where Ric Flair would just be walking around naked with his robe, and apparently Rick is well hung because they called it the baby arm.
Well, don't you remember the very first WWE story time when he told the story of him on the plane and one of the girls was like, Rick, can you wear the robe? And he said, I only wear the robe for 2 reasons. The first one is because I'm taking a lady to bed. The other one is when I'm going to the ring and doing my business. So which one's this going to be or whatever? And she's like, well, put the robe on, And he's like, well, I'm telling you right now, I don't wear anything when I'm taking the lady to bed. So, and she's like, put the robe on, Nate, put the robe on. And he puts the robe on and then he just holds it open like this on the airplane, and like that was like the first story on Storytime.
I forgot about that one. Yeah.
It's a horrible story.
True though.
I'm sure it is true because I'm sure there's definitely people that will account for it.
I'm sure he's got stock in a clinic somewhere too.
So Joe just said that Charlotte should be a heel. Charlotte absolutely should be a heel. She could easily be the biggest heel in the entire business. Like, naturally, that's just how she is. Like, we know that Charlotte is probably one of the best pure athletes in the WWE, right? She was a gymnast, everything else. She's also like 6'2", so I mean she's bigger than everybody else. The fact of the matter is, she literally is the Scott Steiner of women's wrestling, except she's a better wrestler. She is a genetic freak. She is built better than the rest of them. All they'd have to do is have her continue to tell everybody that, which, by the way, this week she did. But she's not supposed to be the heel. She's supposed to be the babyface.
Yeah, they'll figure it out.
No, they won't. Monday Night Raw can't figure out anything.
I'm trying to give them the
because I guarantee to you, if Nia Jax isn't actually injured, that her new catchphrase is going to include "my hole."
All right, let's get to that because that's just hilarious.
So let me tell the story because you say that you watched Raw after the fact and didn't see it. So earlier today, folks, I sent Tino a video captured on my phone of me rewatching that moment and capturing just when she sits there and she goes, "Ow, my butt!" And then she like kicks the table because she's so mad, and then she's like, "My hole!"
Oh,
and all I could think, because everyone's sitting there saying, "Has anyone ever broken their asshole in pro wrestling before?" And
how did you do it?
And there is somebody who had done it,
X-Pac.
And he's a WWE Hall of Famer now. Sean X-Pac Waltman actually broke his ass. And in fact, almost bled out from it.
Yeah, ripped his anus, ripped his ass.
Yeah, he ripped his anus doing the Bronco Buster.
I can't figure out where she got hurt though. How?
It was so she was supposed to drop the leg on the side of the mat.
Right.
So Lana was laying there and she's supposed to drop the leg on her. And Lana rolled out of the way and Nia hit and it was a crashing thud. And I think what happened was the butt cheeks came apart and she actually ripped her butt cheeks. She ripped the hole. Yeah. Yeah, like when you sit down on a toilet seat and you pull your butt cheeks apart first and then you put them in and you just know that you're pulling them a little too far apart. You know, like except imagine landing. This is like when Shane McMahon and Kurt Angle tried to go through the glass and it's like, I think I broke my tailbone. It's like that, except it was literally a splitting of yes. And I feel so bad.
You don't.
Because I do. Because if you go onto social media right now, Busted Open Radio this morning was telling everybody to sit there and give sympathy to Nia Jax's hole. And you know that what they really meant by it was send some sort of video of you going, my hole, you know, like, and then there were people that started doing like the hi ho, but it was hi ho, you know, like and
probably just started like the soccer goal.
Yeah, exactly. It was okay. This may be the funniest thing that Joe has ever actually put in the chat. Joe, you might need to fact check that, but I think this might be the funniest thing you've ever actually put in our chat, which is, well, it was only a matter of time before Nia Jax injured Nia Jax. She's injured everyone else on the women's roster, and you are not wrong, my friend.
At all.
And you want to know what's really interesting about this, and another thing that they brought up today on Busted Open was the fact that Nia seems really timid to get hit. It's like she doesn't want to get like the chops, or she doesn't want to get like a kick to the stomach. Like she's really timid about it, and a lot of them look fake. Not as fake as when Charlotte went into the corner and stopped until Lacey Evans finally decided to smack her in the face, which was one of the biggest, weirdest botches I've ever seen. And I had to watch it 4 times because I was like, something wasn't right there. But like Lacey kept yelling, or because I watched it 4 times, but Lacey yelled, like, get out of here, or something like that, and smacked her. And then Charlotte just backed up and just did the whole thing again. Like, what was going on? But Nia does that all the time. You know, like there were definitely spots where Lana doesn't look like she knows what she's doing in the ring, right? She wants to be a wrestler. This is a girl that probably should go back to NXT and work out in the Performance Center and actually learn the ropes from those that are really good at doing it. You know, so work with the trainers, work with everybody else, because she wants to know how to do this. She wants to learn the way that Trish Stratus did. And yet right now they're getting once a week in the ring, right? And by getting once a week in the ring, you're not learning anything. You're just trying not to forget what you learned last week.
Yeah.
You know, so you're not gaining anything from it. The really good ones are really good at it. Like Drew McIntyre looks like that dude hasn't skipped a step. Hell, Sheamus looks like he hasn't skipped a step. You know, Keith Lee last night looked pretty darn good. And in fact, what I want to talk about is, are they finally unleashing Bobby Lashley?
Yes.
Like, and they, like, why in the world was Bobby Lashley, who was actually a fighter in Bellator, and Riddle, who was a fighter in UFC, not put together in what should be main event matches? But instead, we're getting a fucking thing about Air Bud. Bro, he kind of dinged me up a little bit. Got the black eye, got the shiner for it, so had to go home and watch some Air Bud, bro. You know what I mean, bro? This dude's a legit badass.
I'm excited about maybe the Keith Lee, Bobby Lashley match or rivalry.
I'm almost hoping that Keith Lee takes that title from him and it starts pushing Bobby Lashley through the roof. I hope they don't just lose him here, because I'll tell you, MVP is doing a better job than Paul Heyman right now of looking scared when his dude is angry. Like Bobby Lashley looks like the Hulk right now.
It was like he will kill you.
When he picked Keith Lee up and did the Dominator to him.
Oh my God.
Like I sat there and was like, we've never seen this side of Bobby Lashley. And some people will tell us that we have seen this side of him in Impact or anything else like that. But let's be real. We have never seen on this stage Bobby Lashley looking this good. MVP is the MVP. MVP has been stellar since returning to the WWE.
Where did boy Carlito go?
Yeah, well, I asked that, right? He showed up the night after the Royal Rumble. Guess he got his check and went home.
Maybe they'll repackage him. Maybe they'll send him to SmackDown or even NXT. I don't.
You don't repackage him. You just make sure he's got an apple.
Okay, not repackaged, but maybe, you know what I'm saying, they send him to another show. I really don't think they need to let him go.
He looked good. He looked solid. He did exactly what MVP did last year. He looked great in the Rumble, looked great in his match after that, and then MVP took off and ran with it. They gave him a contract and he went. I mean, MVP was a guy that wasn't getting picked up by anybody. And sure, does he look a little soft? Yeah, but it's because of at his age, unless you're going to do the Marvel diet plan like Edge did, or you're going to do the Rock's diet plan, you're not going to look like that at his age.
Mm-hmm.
And I still think he looks great. Now, Granted, does he huff and puff a little bit when he gets in there and starts running around with guys like Cedric? Yeah. Now, speaking of huffing and puffing, Tino, Shane McMahon came back last night.
I didn't see that part. So what was his deal?
He just came back to sit there and say, "Hey, Adam Pearce, I heard that you made a main event for the yeah. So Joe, we'll get to that. That's fine. I'll let Tino handle that one. But William K is one of your favorites.
No, that William K is one of your favorites.
No. William K and Mojo Rawley should be a tag team.
Oh my God.
but no, so God, what was I saying now? Oh, Shane McMahon showed up right at the beginning of the episode, and Adam Pearce hasn't come down to the ring, and by the time he gets down to the bottom of the ring, he's gassed. Like this is the same guy that's had WrestleMania matches against The Undertaker and you know, like, I mean, just whenever you needed him to go, he could go, right? He comes down and he's in the microphone like, bro, just turn the mic off. You know, like I can hear you breathing heavy. Just cut it off, okay? And then after they say the main event for Elimination Chamber, which is Drew defending against 5 other guys, even though last week thought we were getting Drew versus Sheamus, but apparently not. Apparently they've decided nope, because Roman Reigns said, "Hey, Adam Pearce, you better," or actually it was Paul Heyman on Talking Smack. He's like, you better put Drew McIntyre in that Elimination Chamber and not Roman Reigns, because if you put Roman Reigns in there, we're going to give you your pink slip on Friday, which I thought was great because Paul Heyman's been so money on Talking Smack recently. It's probably actually the best show that WWE does right now. But anyways, I digress. So they changed the match, and AJ Styles' music hits, and AJ starts coming down to the ring for a match, and he's got Omos with him, right? Or Omos, I guess is what they're calling him. Like they keep changing the pronunciations of it. So he's got Omos with him, and Shane doesn't even like make it seem like he knows who Omos is.
Oh yeah, that's right.
So here's my issue with this.
Continuity.
They want you to have selective memory, right? They want you to forget that Shane McMahon used to have Omos with him all the time as his bodyguard doorman, right? His bouncer. Because they want you to forget that Raw Underground ever happened. But hold on. When Bobby Lashley went into the Raw Underground that one time, You and I were sitting there throwing dollars down.
Yep.
So we wanted to see who was going to get their ass kicked.
Yep.
Just that's what's Raw Underground. Don't even try to look it up on the network at this point. Wait until it hits Peacock. But so they get you at the selective memory thing. And then they wanted to remind you that 6 weeks ago, Lana went through 9 tables.
Yep.
So they wanted you to remember that, but they didn't want you to remember that at the same time, Shane McMahon had a bodyguard named Omos. It just irritates me, man.
Yep.
It irritates me. Like you know what it is? Is it's a disservice to your fandom to sit there and think we don't remember. That's fine, Joe. That's fine. Tino, one other thing I want to get to on this episode before I say that we call it.
Okay.
I watched. Go ahead.
Want to say rest in peace to Hacksaw Brady.
Yeah. Well, I'm kind of going there because I wanted to talk about the WWE Untold of the APA.
Yes, I watched that.
So we'll go ahead. We'll give our 10-second salute to Butch Reed. He was former tag team champions with Ron Simmons. They were in a group called Doom before my WCW days.
Yep. I remember that.
I also don't think that we remember Dominic. It's Dominic with a K, Joe. But yes, we all you have to do is see how tall he is to know that he's not really Ray's kid. Right. No, they actually do favor each other. They do look pretty similar. Notice how Aaliyah and Buddy Murphy have both been kept off. So rumor is that Steve Cutler, who got fired, by the way, talking about SmackDown still, who was released this past week. I don't want to say fired. He was actually offered the best in his future endeavors. Apparently, Buddy Murphy's story was going to involve him. And now that he's no longer with the company, Buddy Murphy's been showing up every week, and they're like, we don't have anything for you. One of the best pound-for-pound wrestlers in the world, putting on great matches with everybody from Roman Reigns to Rey Mysterio to Seth Rollins, and you got nothing for him?
No, I'll tell you, what was it? What was it? Buddy Murphy and Cedric Alexander having those matches at when we went to see him live at SmackDown all those years ago?
Yeah, for the 205 Live Championship.
That
heavyweight belt.
Yeah.
That was, I mean, dude, I was sitting there saying, maybe we should leave. And you were like, no, man, we paid for these tickets. Let's stay for 205 Live. And I'm like, the hell's 205 Live? You know, like Joe just sat there and asked this question.
Yeah.
Well, 205 Live is what I asked. And you were like, come on, man, you know it's the better wrestling show. And I was like, all right, we'll stay. Let's hope it's pretty good. And of course, Cedric Alexander tore that shit down that night. Like those two guys went for like 35 minutes. And it was like, please don't let this ever end.
And that Rob was like, he was quiet. And that's weird. It's just like,
I was like,
and you know how hard it is to get him to shut up. And
then I was like this.
That match was
unbelievable. And of course, it was in Cedric's hometown. So made it even better. Right. We were in Cameron, or not Cameron, but
no, we were in Raleigh. That was at the PNC Center.
Was it?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's right. It was a SmackDown.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, Tino, we don't ever go to SmackDown anymore.
Yep.
Now, if they were to bring these shows back, I'd be like, Tino, we're only going to NXT and SmackDown.
Yep.
We're never going to Raw again. Now that's not true. I'd still want to see Drew McIntyre wrestle. But
anyway, you're watching APA,
dude. They gave them 33 minutes to sit there and explain how they got together, how they formed the bond, and even how they broke up at the end. And it was more compelling than I can remember watching them through the Attitude Era and all the way up to when the Dudley Boys and them went through their feud.
Maybe that's not the ones I saw. I think I must have saw the best of matches. I didn't see that Untold. I might have to go back and watch that.
They literally have them both sitting in different rooms being interviewed, and they should have done it at the same time, but I know that they would have just started cutting up with each other. But it was even better than their Table for Three with Teddy Long.
I'm going to go back and watch that.
It is phenomenal because you know how they did the icons with Yokozuna.
Yeah.
Well, they did an afterthoughts on that as well. So they actually brought in Rikishi and they brought in a couple other people to sit there and talk story. Bret Hart was on there talking stories of on like a Zoom call on Yoko and everything. And it was, it's just amazing to hear about it because Bret Hart tells this story. And, we like fart stories on our show. And he basically is telling this story about how they were all sitting on a plane one time and all the wrestlers are just getting rowdy. And it's like a flight to Tokyo. And the wrestlers weren't allowed onto this aircraft company again because they were getting so rowdy on the plane that all the business class people were getting pissed off at them. And Yokozuna, as they're getting ready to open the doors to let everybody off the plane, is standing there at the doorway all by himself, and everybody else is like crowding him trying to get in. And he lets off a fart that apparently goes on for like 2 minutes. And like Brett and Owen are just sitting there like this, and they're like, but they're like laughing, they're cutting up and everything. And yeah, after that, apparently they weren't allowed onto that airline company for like 6 months because of it. And Yoko was just like, "What are you gonna do about it?" Yeah. But the APA thing, man, you got to watch it. Everybody, I highly recommend it. While the network's still the network, and you can find shit like this. Joe says, "Is Rob quiet?" I guess that was talking about the Cedric Alexander Buddy Murphy match. Yes, I was actually silent for that. But they talk about how like Ron Simmons coming up was an All-American football player, wanted to make it to the NFL. I don't think they ever said that he made it to the NFL, but when his football career, he basically knew it wasn't going anywhere. He remembered that his grandma wanted or loved pro wrestling, so he wanted to become a pro wrestler. And they tell his whole story about how like he came up from being a tag team wrestler with Butch Reed and everything to winning the NWA World Heavyweight Championship, all the way to speaking of Bret Hart and farts. Ward and I once made up and drew a parody of wrestlers, and one was a Bret Hart knockoff called Wet Fart. That's awesome. Thanks for bringing up the turd as we bring up farts. But then they were talking about how Bradshaw, like as he was coming up, he wanted to be a pro football player too, and only made it to the USFL. And then after that was like, well, this isn't going anywhere. So he decided to go into pro wrestling. So he got signed by the WWF, and that's when they named him Justin Hawk Bradshaw. And it's because he had already wrestled under the name Justin Hawk in Japan. So he was like, can I keep going by Justin Hawk, even though you want to add Bradshaw to it? So they were like, sure, you can go by Justin Hawk Bradshaw. And it was because he was already thinking, after I get fired by the WWF, I'll go back over to Japan and I'll still be able to be Justin Hawk. So then, of course, Ron Simmons becomes world champion. Ron Simmons comes over to WWE, and he's sitting there in that meeting with Vince McMahon, and they're like, I see you being a Farouk. And he's like, what the hell is a Farouk? And then they show him the gladiator outfit, and he's like, I'll tell you, I saw this outfit. And I wanted him to say damn right there, but he didn't do it. And he's like, it was so bad. They gave me a blue leather helmet. Not even metal, man. Not even metal. Like, I'd have been able to rock some metal helmets, but they gave me a blue leather helmet. Just wasn't gonna be a good look. And then he's like, and I don't know what happened, but then they got a little bit behind me. I started the Nation. We all know how that went. Then all of a sudden it was like, I'm just sitting in the back one day and you got nothing for me. And then they're talking to Bradshaw, and Bradshaw's like, and then they're saying that they don't have anything for Ron. And I'm like, how do you not have anything for Ron? The guy's a former college football Hall of Famer. The guy's a former NWA world champion.
I'm just going to sit here and tell the whole show so people don't watch it.
So, all right. So the moral of it is they put them together. After they put them together, they started talking about how hard they hit people. And they were like, that's what we got told to do. Just hit people as hard as we can. And then my favorite part is he's sitting there talking about how they basically got drunk one night. Okay. Like really, really drunk. And then the next morning they were both in their hotel room and they shared the same hotel room, and they're like, it's Red Roof Inn. So Bradshaw's like, that shows you how cheap we were. We shared a Red Roof Inn. It was probably $29 a night. and Farouk looks at me and Ron's like, hey man, how'd you get back here? He's like, limousine. And he's like, how the hell did you get a limousine? And he's like, I rode back with Vince and Shane. And he's like, oh man, we're getting fired. And then that's when they became the APA, because that's when they started the whole bar room brawls and everything. And then of course they tell like that they say that one of their favorite sets of people to fight was the Dudley Boys, because the Dudley Boys dished as much as they gave, or gave as much as they got. So one night they'd take an ass beating from the Dudley Boys. The next night they'd give an ass whooping to the Dudley Boys. And then they even talked about like JBL becoming JBL.
Wow.
And it's the insides of the story. Like I told some of the stories from it, and some of you might think that you don't need to watch it, but Carson is in the chat as we're getting ready to call it a night. Carson, what did you think of the Royal Rumble? And real quick, what did you think of Nia Jax's hole? I didn't even pop you that time, Tino. I don't know what's going on here, man. Do you want me to put this one back up? Wet fart?
Yeah. Oh.
So I thought there was going to be another episode of WWE Icons this week, Tino, and there wasn't.
No, I don't know who did they have they said who they were thinking about possibly doing next.
Carson died laughing when he saw that. So I know that two of them that are coming up are Beth Phoenix and Rob Van Dam. Which was one of the reasons why I thought Rob Van Dam might come back for the Royal Rumble. Tino, I got an idea for a WWE storyline I wanted to run by you.
Uh-oh.
And I'll try to make it quick, because I see you looking at your watch, twisting your ring. So Edge is a WWE Hall of Famer right now.
Correct.
What if Roman Reigns told him, if you want to face me for my Universal Championship, you have to, if you lose, remove yourself from the WWE Hall of Fame?
Ooh. Why would he do that?
What'd you say? Why would he do that?
Yeah.
Well, because he's a prize fighter. He could then say,
No. Why would Edge do it?
Because Edge wants that belt.
Okay.
So you back Edge into a corner and you say, sorry, you can go to Raw or you can go to NXT and take one of their chintzy belts. But if you want mine, you got to take yourself out of the Hall of Fame if you lose. Does it become a lot more real then?
Yeah. Then Edge wouldn't lose, I doubt, because I've never heard him take anybody out of the Hall of Fame. So then that's backing him in the corner.
Well, hold on. They've taken one guy out of the Hall of Fame.
Who?
They put him back in.
Who?
Booker T called somebody
Hogan? They took. I don't know. I didn't realize they took him out.
Yeah, they took Hulk Hogan out of the Hall of Fame at that point. Joe might have to fact check because they might have just stopped mentioning him.
Okay, so yes, but just for storyline effect, I don't think they're going to take Edge out of the Hall of Fame.
But storyline wise, I think that would add something to it, because right now I think that him going against Roman Reigns is missing something, because we already mentioned it's not even the title that Edge never lost.
That's why he's not going for that title.
So you think he's going against Drew?
Yes.
I did like how they extended his I'm not going to make a decision until after the Elimination Chamber, because this is intriguing now. But nobody wants to see Edge versus Jeff Hardy. Nobody wants to see Edge versus The Miz.
Probably Edge versus Orton, because they still have not had that blow-off match. So if Orton wins...
No. He said last night on Raw that last week was the blow-off match.
Oh, okay.
I think that you got two intriguing matchups out of that six-pack challenge match player. You got, and I mean the Elimination Chamber, you've got the possibility of Edge versus Drew, right?
Or Edge and Sheamus?
Or Edge versus AJ Styles.
AJ could carry, not carry him, but he could.
Edge and AJ, even at their elapsed ages, would put on a fucking hellacious show. Yeah. They would tear the house down, and Christian could come down and keep almost out of the match.
But I don't think that's gonna happen. I think Drew's gonna carry that title through WrestleMania.
I kind of think he will too. Now it's weird because if this was Survivor Series, you could almost see them having a week before the match, the belt gets dropped, because the last 3 years that has happened on one of the programs. Drew McIntyre picked it up this year. AJ Styles picked it up 2 years ago or 3 years ago, and Daniel Bryan picked it up like 2 years ago. So like if it was Survivor Series, all bets are off. Yeah. It's like Vince McMahon's like, it's the holidays. Fuck it. But I love the idea of Roman Reigns saying, you got to take yourself out of the WWE. You can't call yourself a WWE Hall of Famer if you lose this match against me. Because I could almost picture Roman coming out that next Friday with the belt on his arm after beating Edge and being like, hey, Paul, I guess I can call myself a Hall of Famer now, can't I? So I want to be introduced as Hall of Famer and your Universal Champion, the Tribal Chief.
That's pushing
Roman Reigns.
That's pushing it.
Oh, I would love it, man.
Pushing it a little bit,
because that would get under people's skin, because they'd be like, you haven't done enough to be a Hall of Famer. Although, as we all know, if there really were ballots for Hall of Fame in WWE, Roman is already a first ballot Hall of Famer. Just because of how he's been used. Well, Joe, yes, Edge could beat Roman, and if that were a stipulation added to it, you would almost think that that's one of those things that makes Edge go over anyway, right?
That's what I was saying, yeah.
So, do you think, last question.
You said You said that 15 minutes ago.
No. I didn't. This is the last question I have for you, Tino.
Okay.
And if Joe or Carson want to add in their responses, I would love to hear them. Do you think that The Miz cashes in at WrestleMania? Because The Miz is part of this Elimination Chamber match, and he already started talking about how he's going to cash in at WrestleMania. Like, that didn't make sense to me. He's basically saying, I don't have a chance in the Elimination Chamber. Like, I almost think it'd be funny that him and Morrison both try to get in the one chamber and lock themselves in.
I almost want to think that the Elimination Chamber, he loses, and whoever wins that match, he cashes in then.
So, and I kind of thought that too, except there's less intrigue because does he lose twice? Because we've already said we don't think he goes into WrestleMania as the champion, right?
I don't think he leaves WrestleMania as the champion. It's going to be one of those he cashes in and loses.
So I think that right now they're looking at it as something that can draw ratings on the next Monday night from somewhere. Could be Elimination Chamber where he gets eliminated, and then all of a sudden at the end of the match he comes back down and cashes in his Money in the Bank and actually runs in and pins whoever just went through hell, right? So I could see Sheamus winning and beating Drew, and then Miz cashing in on Sheamus, which causes Sheamus to go up against Miz like the next night, win the title back, and then go to WrestleMania against Drew, right? I could see something like that, but I don't like it. But that's just it. It's like, does he cash in at Mania? Does he cash in the night after Mania? Like, he doesn't have much time because it's like May is when the Money in the Bank pay-per-view is. So he's only got 1 year. Does Otis come down and squash him so he can't win? Anyways, Tino, why don't you help our friends out there?
Subscribe, like, comment, and tell your friends. But you can catch him on Twitter at Potchat. You can catch me at HoodieFan91. The show is at Potsy Tino. Also on Facebook, or Potsy and Tino Show. You can catch him on the Insta. He is Rob Potcheck. I'm SC Tino. He's also on the. Are you on Snap? You're not on Snapchat, are you?
I do, but I don't know what my thing is. I think it's Potsy was taken.
All right, give him your Twitch and your YouTube.
Well, Twitch is Rob Potsy Potchak, and of course YouTube, you were probably watching it here, is youtube.com/Rob Potchak. And folks,
thanks. Even though we didn't get to hear it, we want to say thank you to Adam's House Cat for our theme song, which is the wrestling song, which you can find it on iTunes for 99 cents. Go out and pick that up.
And Tino's saying that he may be here next week live
in
the studio, which as you can see is now all made up and looks pretty good, right?
Yeah, the plan was to be last night, but had to do the thing with Mom. So maybe next week I'm gonna try to be in the studio. That'd be awesome. As you can see right now, I am in the daughter's room. All that's behind me because I couldn't get into Nicole's in the other room, so I got delegated to Haley's room. But as always, until next week, folks, we hear Ric Flair, and he's in Charlotte in that big house on the hill, and he, as always, is saying, "Woo!"
Good night, Carson. Good night, Joe. Good night, everybody else that may have checked us out. Thank you. Subscribe, do all that fun stuff, and folks, we are out.
Out.